All right, my name is Jason Poole. I'm the manager of development for the sign division here with Development Services. Today we're going to go over signs and some of the general ordinance provisions. We'll look at permitting and some of our procedures there, and we'll look at inspections. We do have our inspectors and our senior plans examiner here. If you guys will come up, I'll introduce you real quick. Or if you want to introduce yourself and your title.
I'm Scott Roper. I'm the senior plans examiner. So when you send your permits in, they all come through me.
I'm Mike Martin, senior inspector.
Yeah, inspector. I'm Oscar. Inspector. Sign inspector.
And if you look at those handouts, I've got everybody's contact on the back of one of those sheets. And you can actually scan that with your phone and it'll save it right in your phone. So it works both ways. We've got everybody field numbers this year. So you can reach them in the field. Like gone are the days where they're only in the office from 8:30 or 8 to 8:30 and 4 to 4:30. So now you should be able to get a hold of them anytime. Should be able to. They are in the field, so they'll answer when they can. But lots of exciting things coming, and we did just hire a new inspector. We haven't got a start date yet, but as soon as we do, we'll announce that. And he'll move into that central area on this handout here. But I guess let's go ahead and get started. So this is kind of an overview of everything we want to go over. We'll look at some of the general provisions. Signs is kind of a special case where we bridge a lot of different ordinances. So we'll go over those. We'll look at the general zoning districts, and we'll look at permitting. We'll look at inspections. I'm going to demonstrate the zoning map. We've done some pretty cool things with it, with new layers and some things you can look at and look up and see with that. And we're shooting to have one of these a quarter. So we'll talk about the next ones coming up, and then we'll have a couple Q&A sessions throughout. So I did want to point out this page here. This is our signs page, and the majority of what we're going to look at and talk about is going to be on this page, or you'll have access to it. We're also going to, like, this is being recorded, and I'm going to post it online as well, and the PowerPoint here will be posted also. But all the links will be there, all the basics on signs. And we've set up that QR code, which is also on your handout. And then we've got bit.lys to everything as well, so you don't have to type in the big, long address. So our general provisions, we're calling these our construction codes. That's the way they're listed on the website. Again, with signs, we encompass a lot of different things. We're a little bit building code. We're a little bit electrical. We're a little bit zoning. It's kind of a hybrid. So the first one is Chapter 52, and we're not going to spend a lot of time on these. I just want to point them out so you know where they're at. But basically, Chapter 52 tells you when you need an electrical permit, and it's got a page number there. When you don't need a sign permit, there's a page number there. It's got some of our permitting procedures. It's got our fee schedule. And we get a lot of questions about construction information signs, and that's where that information is. Basically, those are posted on every job site, depending on the dollar amount or what work is being done. They have to have a construction information sign, and we kind of look at those as government signs, but it talks about them in that section. The next is Chapter 53, which is our IBC amendments. This was actually approved, and I actually made this presentation part yesterday. It was actually approved on Wednesday, the 2021 IBC amendment. The tentative date that's going to go in will be May 15th, but Chapter 36 is our portion of that. That was added, so it's not actually a part of Chapter 56 or Chapter 53. We have our own little section that we added called Chapter 36. That's where I know a lot of you have run into the code where if a sign projects more than 2 inches, it has to have 10-foot clearance over a pedestrian right-of-way or a pedestrian walkway. That's where that is. But that's our IBC. And then Chapter 56 is our NEC amendments. We're currently 2020 on that. We basically took the NEC as it is, but we added Article 81 and Article 82, which basically redefines some of the definitions. It updates it for some of our state codes, and then what needs to be done and what's required for those registrations. But again, those are on that sheet, that bit.ly code, and then that'll have all the construction codes, even the ones we don't use. Like if anybody needs to do something with a plumbing or mechanical, that's in that section. The big one we're going to talk about today is our Chapter 51A, Article 7. It's our development code, and that's where the bulk of our amendments or our regulations are going to come from. I've laid out the table of contents here just to kind of give you an idea of how it's structured. In general, most of our ordinances start out with a in general section. So that's the first 51A 7.100. It's got the purposes and definitions. Then it has in 200, it's provisions for all zoning districts. Then we've got our business and non-business zoning districts, which those are going to be like our base layers. Then it goes into the special provision sign districts and the procedures with those. Our permitting procedures for every other just general zoning districts is 7.600. There's a section on non-conforming and enforcement on those types of signs. And we're not going to get that to this class. That'll probably be the next class. This 51A 7.800 is our procedures for changing the code. And then 900 through 2300 are the specific special provision sign districts. And we won't get into those today. Just the general purpose of the ordinance. And all of this has been summarized. So if you want to look at the code, it is in the code. This, what we're putting out today, is not code. It's a summary of the code. So just keep that in mind. But the purpose is we're setting standards for private signs near public right-of-ways to promote public health, well-being, enjoyment, and help achieve the following: safety. We want to prevent hazards or any traffic issues. Communication efficiency. We want to aid identification and navigation. And then landscape. We want to preserve our views and avoid any nuisances and protect property values and maintain character. And that is mainly for different districts and different areas. So I pulled out some key definitions from our definition section, and this will kind of set a context for our discussion. The first one is advertise. Advertise means to attract, and again, these are summaries: attract or attempt to attract the attention of any person to a business, accommodations, goods, services, property, or commercial activity. The next definition is effective area. And we measure this differently depending on the sign. And we're actually going to build on this when we get to zoning or business zoning districts. But for a detached sign, it's the area within a minimum imaginary rectangle of vertical and horizontal lines that fully contains all extremities of the sign, excluding sign supports. And it goes on. So if you imagine a pole sign that has multiple cabinets, basically we draw a box around the widest points of those cabinets, and everything in between is considered effective area. So if you've got a giant cabinet up top and a little bitty tiny cabinet on the bottom, all of that space in between is calculated. So something to think about when you design signs. Attached signs. So basically with attached signs, it's the sum of the areas within minimum imaginary rectangles of vertical and horizontal lines, which each fully contain a word. Designs that surround a word are included in the area calculations. So if you have a set of channel letters, it's just the letters. What we do is we'll draw a box around each word, and you total those boxes to get your effective area. Now, if it's on a backplate that is a contrasting color from the wall, we're going to measure around the whole thing, backplate and all. If it has a decorative border, it'll go around the border. So that's ways to look at maximizing how effective area can be utilized. This is a big one, and we run across this a lot. It's the definition of a sign. What it means is a device, a flag, a light, and it goes on to describe a whole bunch of other things. But basically it sums up with, or anything visible from outside the premise on which it's located that is designed, intended, or used to inform or advertise to persons not on the premise. And it's not vehicles, it's somebody not on the premise. So it could be sidewalk, anything. What this does not include is searchlights and landscape features that have no words, works of art that do not advertise, or temporary holiday decorations. So basically anything that does not fit this position or this definition, we don't regulate in the sign ordinance. So if it doesn't fall under this, the sign ordinance doesn't apply. The definition of a word. So each word is considered one word, and that could be any word in the English or in the language, in any language found in any dictionary. Any proper noun or initials or series of initials, any separate character, symbol, or abbreviation, so like an ampersand or any of those, any number, which could mean a telephone number, a street number, a combination of numbers or symbols, any symbol or trademark logo that contains no words or character. So those are what we consider words, and with attached signs, many of you know we have word limitations. All right, so here's section 51A 7.200, and this sets the context for all the districts. And I like to think about, and I'll talk about this in a few more slides later, but I like to think about the Dallas sign code as layers. Like, you remember the old transparencies when they would put on the overhead projector when you were in school as a kid? Like, basically, these are going to be your base layers, and then other layers will layer on top, and it'll change what's below. So if you think about it as a layer, and these overlay districts, these are going to be your base layers, and they're going to be these application, or this application is for all districts. And here's a phrase we like to use a lot that we like, except as provided. So unless something else directly changes these requirements, they're in place. All right, so the first one is roof and right-of-way signs. And right-of-way we define as the property line that abuts a public street or public right-of-way. Now, for signs, we don't consider alleys right-of-ways. They are, but for sign regulation purposes, we don't really look at alleys. But when you're looking at setbacks and that kind of thing, and it measures from the right-of-way, it's that property line that borders that right-of-way. I know a lot of cities do curbs. So every city's different. We use the property line. But in general, signs are prohibited on roofs or over buildings and in public rights-of-way. And exceptions include, in 51A 305, we have an exception for an attached sign in business zoning. Attached signs that project 18 inches or less over the right-of-way. As long as the building is legally allowed, we'll allow it to project up to 18 inches off that building. You'll still have to get a right-of-way agreement, but it can project into the right-of-way in a general zoning district. Subdivision signs, and we'll talk about those in a minute, but there's a business zoning and a non-business zoning for subdivision signs. These are allowed to be located in the right-of-way. Again, subject to franchise agreements, but they are allowed. And with express authorization by other provisions. There are several PDs and the majority of the SBSDs that allow signs to at least overhang the right-of-way. Not many allow an actual structure in the right-of-way, but a lot of the blade signs or projecting signs are allowed to project over that right-of-way. Another key provision for all districts is movement control signs. And the industry would probably define these as directionals. And we have some very specific requirements for directionals. We call them movement control signs. They can be put anywhere on the premise, provided it's not a single family or duplex. But these signs can be attached or detached without limit as long as it's less than 2 square feet, less than 2 feet in height, or excuse me, less than or equal to 2 square feet, less than or equal to 2 feet in height, contains no advertising or identification message, and no words more than 4 inches tall. So this little picture here is one from McDonald's. So if they were to put their logo on there, then it would count as a detached sign rather than a movement control sign, since they're not allowed identification. Now, we do have a variance process that does allow for some of these extra things. They can grant an additional half square foot. They can grant a little bit more in height, and they can grant identification messages. But it is a public hearing process, and I believe it's $1,200 per request. So if a customer did want that, it is an option. Signs and structures located on buildings. This is in 51A 7.211. I put the Adam hats on there, even though this isn't part of that. It is a structure on top of the building. This building has a mechanical room on top of it with that Bank of America sign. The last job I did with current planning was actually to change the zoning to allow them to update that sign. Based on this code here, they wouldn't be able to do it. So a sign may be attached to a structure located on the building if it refers exclusively to the identification of the premise or a tenant that occupies in excess of 50% of the floor area of the premise. At the time that sign went up, they had 50% of the building. Well, they don't anymore. Unfortunately, that sign has to go to committee, so we line item the code and how it meets the code, and in that process, we found they didn't have enough square footage anymore, so we had to go in and they amended the PD and changed the ordinance to where they could have that. They could replace those signs on the roof. 51A 7.211A. And again, all these will be posted online, and those links are live, so you can actually click them and it'll take you to that section. It provides a list of the structures, just a few of them: mechanical room, an equipment screen, parapet walls that are over 4 feet in height. Those are some of the structures on the list. Digital displays. This pretty much governs all of our digital displays in the ordinance. Basically what it says is the effective area of a digital display may not exceed either 50 square feet or 50% of the total area allowance for the sign itself. So if the sign's allowed 200 square feet, the digital display could be 100. They could still have an extra 100 in static, but only 50% of that allowance is what's permitted, or 50 square feet, whichever is greater. B contains some lighting requirements, which we won't get into very much. The big thing is the message display. In a business zoning district, you get, I don't know why I put minutes there. So in a business zoning district, you get 20 seconds per message. Like, it has to be the same message for 20 seconds. In a non-business, it's 20 minutes. You're not allowed to change the brightness outside of changing messages. And you can have a 2-second transition.
We were just talking about in non-business zoning, the ordinance says you're allowed a 40 square foot patch sign, right? But here it says 50 square foot or 50%. So I'm just explaining to Scott, who would fall back to the most restrictive. So you would go back, in this case, you would go back to 40 square foot. So it's the most restrictive. And that's in the.
So there is, it's 204, 51A 7.204. And basically it says when there's a conflict, the more restrictive applies. And that expands to government codes beyond the city. That expands to state codes, federal codes, whoever is the most restrictive, even like a historic district overlay. Whoever's the most restrictive in a conflict, that the way our ordinance works is we go with the most restrictive. It was funny, we got into a discussion with the SPSDs and PDs, and if PDs were allowed to absolve SPSDs with just having sign requirements that said business or non-business rules. Well, in looking at the whole process, that was never elaborated, but we came to the conclusion that SPSDs is more restrictive because it only deals with signs, whereas a PD deals with all of it, even though it's a smaller area. So just to put that in some kind of context. But the most restrictive is going to apply. All right, so here's where we started talking about the transparency overlays. So zoning districts and overlays. We've got general zoning districts, which I'm going to call GZDs just because it's easier to say. And basically the city is divided into business and non-business. Now, this is not residential and non-residential. This is exclusive to signs. It is business and non-business. Business falls under 51A 7.300, and non-business is 51A 7.400. It doesn't also mean that there aren't businesses allowed in non-business. It's just a term. So we have other overlays that overlay these also. There's planned development districts, which there's a link here to all of them. It's also on our sign page. We've got form districts, which is Article 13. It's at the end of our ordinance. Also a link here. Conservation districts, historic districts, special provision sign districts. Now, not all of them have a base layer, but the majority of them do. What happens with those SBSDs is they come in and lay over the district, and they change so much that you don't even recognize the base layer anymore. But basically, these lay on top of each other. And if you think about it that way, it makes it a little less daunting when you're trying to figure out what's allowed. So overlays may change provisions and require additional reviews and or approvals. With conservation districts, you've got to get a work release before we can give you a permit. With a historic district, you've got to get a certificate of appropriateness from Landmark before we can do anything. With the SBSD, we take that through City Plan Commission. It's actually built into the review, but it is additional review processes. So sometimes that can happen. The next big thing is temporary signs in the general zoning districts. So what we called these before, and I say before because they're not allowed anymore, but it's a special purpose sign, which means a sign temporarily supplementing the permanent signs on a premise. If it fits that definition, it's not allowed. So basically, probably 15 years ago, council just removed all provisions for a special purpose sign from these general zoning districts, and effectively prohibiting them. I think they were initially looking at detached, but they went ahead and expanded that to all. So special purpose signs are not allowed. Some of the overlays still have provisions. The bulk of the SBSDs still allow special purpose signs, and there are some PDs that have reinitiated them and allow special purpose signs. But basically, if the sign functions as a permanent sign, it follows the provisions for the signs provided by that district. So if you use a giant banner that says now leasing in the name of the leasing place or the apartment, that could be a permanent sign. Now, if it says grand opening or something like that, that's obviously supporting something else. So that would be hard not to say it's not a special purpose sign. Here's some examples of special purpose signs, all of the feather flags, this one for GameStop, these A-frames. Now, some of the ordinances do allow A-frames, some of the PDs and SBSDs. The general zoning districts do not. All right, so business zoning districts. It's 51A 7.300 is where those start. And basically, we have an older version of the ordinance, which is Chapter 51, and the newer version, which is 51A. So the bulk of what we're going to see is 51A. Those districts are community retail, which is the CR, regional retail, which is RR. We've got CS, which is commercial service. We've got all the industrial, which is light industrial, industrial research, and industrial manufacturing. CA, which is central area, and MU, which is mixed use. MC, which is multiple commercial, parking districts, and then some of the PDs, not all of them. Unless basically a PD is business zoning, unless it says otherwise. Now with Chapter 51, and I only included this because some of the PDs still operate off Chapter 51. When you get into PD 193, which is like right on the other side of Woodall Rogers, and it's just a giant mess of its own thing. It's got some of these older districts in it, which would just fall under business zoning provisions. So SC, which is a shopping center, GR, general retail, LC, which is light commercial. Again, there's CA1 and CA2, which are still current. HC, which I believe is heavy commercial. All the industrials, which is 1, 2, and 3, I think. And then parking districts. Now, this business zoning district includes most non-residential zoning districts. Now, just to jump ahead, it doesn't include office. So offices are actually non-business zoning, but we'll get into that. And this section also does not apply to attached signs if they're located within 100 feet of a non-business zoning district or private property in a non-business zoning district or a public park that's less than or more than an acre. So if you've got a park next door or a multifamily apartment and you want to put giant attached signs, you might want to check the measurement. And there, I'll show you how to do that on the zoning map. But it could cause a problem when you see a zoning district and then don't check the surrounding zoning. We do have proximity provisions. All right, so in general, for all business zoning districts, A through C talk about lighting and movement. The lighting's pretty standard. Movement, if anybody does rotation, I don't know that many cities allow rotation anymore. We allow one per rotation per, is it 10 seconds or 20? I think it's 10 seconds. One rotation per 10 seconds. So if anybody's out there that's got some old rotators and wants to use them, we allow them. There are a few signs that do rotate in Dallas. D goes into subdivision signs and business park signs. And this one's kind of a unique one. They are allowed. They have to be less than or equal to 40 square feet. They can't be more than 6 feet tall. They can't be internally illuminated. They're limited to a landscape or a monument sign, and we'll get into what that means here in a minute. You get 2 per street entrance, and they only contain the name of the business park. They must provide letters of support when you apply from all the property owners that abut that sign, and 2/3 of the property owners within 300 feet of that sign. Yeah.
Say you get 2 through business park, but is our residential 1 per entrance? Or?
Actually, these are the same for business and non-business zoning. And it's kind of funny. There is a provision in here that says that the detached sign section doesn't apply here. So this is in addition to your detached signs that you're already allowed. So it's kind of a neat little loophole there. I don't know if anybody's ever tried to exploit it, but I did notice it in building this presentation. All right, so the detached sign provisions starts in B2. This is where it gets fun. So no portion of a detached sign can be located above a residential proximity slope as defined in 51A 4.412, which is the zoning provisions. For a residential, or excuse me, an R through townhouse district, that slope is a 1-to-3 slope. For clustered housing through MF2, it's a 1-to-1 slope, but it ends at 50 feet. And this is measured from the property line of the residential zoning district through the average grade of the sign. We also have in A1 the effective area to height ratio and the setback to height ratio. So sign allowances are determined by figuring maximums based on the setbacks along a variable slope beginning at 7.5 feet above the right-of-way line. So, any questions? All right. So this was kind of fun. Let's unpack these a little. So with a proximity slope. So basically the way it's done is this is an R75A district. We're going to measure from the property line at a 1-to-3. So basically we're going to measure from the line to the highest point of the sign, and we'll divide that by 3. So we're at 60 feet. That's 30 feet. So this slope is going to go up and goes through 30 feet. So that's the maximum height allowed on this sign at that point. Now, if it moves closer, it has to move down the slope. So you just take that measurement and divide by 3. Yes, 20 feet. Yeah. Math, right? Math is tough today. All right. With an MF2 district or a clustered housing and on up to MF2, this line is a 1-to-1 ratio. So for every 1 foot, you get 1 foot in height, but it ends at 50 feet. Now, there are some other provisions for individual zoning districts. I'm not sure they apply to signs because signs kind of have their own setbacks. They're allowed in front yard setbacks, so they operate under a different code. So because they can be so close to these property lines, this 26 foot that may apply in some other districts, and we don't run across this very much. I just brought it up because it said it. This 26 foot that would apply as a minimum in another district where anything over 26 feet has to apply for a residential proximity slope, and anything under it doesn't matter. I'm not sure that works for signs, but we'll let you know. You don't have to worry about it. All right, so the effective area to height ratio and the setback to height slope. So this one is, from what I can tell, exclusive to Dallas. I've never seen this anywhere else. I've grown to really like it because there's a lot of freedom in it. Basically what happens is you determine your setback, and all of your maximums are built off that setback, and we use formulas. And for each type of sign, there's a different formula. So basically we made charts for every 5 feet. And if you want less, you can go through the formula and just plug the numbers in the formula. So if you have a setback, divide by 2, add 7.5, that gives you the maximum height. And then you take that and multiply it by 8, and that gives you the effective area. And that's a maximum for each setback. That's not a ratio or a ratio for how wide or how tall it has to be. That's a maximum for each setback. And we've got charts for all of those. There's links in here. There's links on the sign page. So for every type of detached sign, we've got a chart. So you don't have to do any math unless you just really want to. All right, so the next one is monument versus non-monument. Now, business zoning pulls out a new sign type, excuse me, that isn't in non-business. So the meaning of a monument sign is, it means it's applied directly onto a ground level support instead of a pole support, with no separation from the sign and the ground, or mounted on a fence. And then it defines a non-monument. So this is all detached signs in a business zoning district are either monument or non-monument, unless you're a subdivision, you do a landscape, which defined it there. Anyway, so a non-monument is a detached sign that's not a monument. So any questions on that? We'll unpack that a little. So this is what we interpret a monument sign to mean. So when it says it must be applied to a ground level support instead of a pole support, this means no direct burial poles. You can use alternatives such as anchor bolts, match plates, rebar. As long as it's at grade level, it's acceptable. So what this means is the sign support is to end at the ground. Now we'll get into what that practically means here in a second. The part where it says with no separation between the sign and the ground, that means the widest point of the sign must be in contact with the ground, or the sign must have a base as wide as the sign cabinet itself. All right, so practically speaking, everything above grade on a monument sign is considered effective area due to that ground level support. In our last definition for effective area, it excluded sign supports. Well, this is saying the ground is the support. So there is no more supports. Everything above grade is considered effective area. As a result, monument signs get reduced setbacks. If you saw in that other chart, they start at the property line and then they go back from there. So in most areas, you can have a sign on the property line that's 7.5 foot tall and 60 square feet, as long as it's a monument sign. Minimum setbacks for non-monument signs start at 15 feet, and then they go back from there. So we do try and give a little allowances for monument signs. Now, again, right-of-way means the property line that's adjacent to a public right-of-way or city street. These are some examples of monument signs here on the left, and non-monument signs on the right. And here's a little quiz. So this was sent to me the other day. I blocked out some of the tenants on there. So, is this a monument sign? Yes or no?
No.
Okay, you say no?
Yep.
Okay. Now raise your hand if you say no.
It's not a monument sign that I was on. It's not.
Okay, let's think about what it said, right? No separation between the sign and the ground. The widest point of the sign is in contact with the ground. If you look over here under the foundation, it says that it's an 8-inch diameter metal pole to be mounted with base plate and J bolt anchors or similar, no direct burial. They put on their engineering required. If you go below that, they even say they got an 18-inch wide aluminum sheet frame pole cover. Above that, they calculate the square footage. They can't do math. It's actually like 260 something if you calculate the whole thing. But in my mind, this is a monument sign. Like it fits all the characteristics of a monument sign. Because it's an expressway sign, it fits the code. Like we can go up to 400 square feet. So at 280 or 68, I think it was, I don't remember, more math, right? It is a monument sign according to our definitions. Yes, which comes out to like 268 or something like that.
Okay, so, can I ask a question?
Sure.
Before you were going through details of the monument sign, and I didn't know if you were referring to optics or literally details. So, whether or not a monument sign is bolted to a foundation, I guess we're calling the foundation not part of the sign.
Everything below grade is not. Like it's sign support
So,
in that scenario.
so like how it's engineered and designed to have a foundation is a specific part of what you're not talking about how it looks, you're talking about
Right,
action.
right.
That was a direct burial hole.
That would be a non-monument sign. It look the same, but because it's a continuous pole, because it becomes a pole support, it's now a pole sign or a non-monument sign. Just a ground level support. We're not calling for a breakaway. We're calling for a ground level support. Honestly, if it's a breakaway, it functions in the opposite direction if a car were to hit it.
So if you're saying, sorry, so you're saying the dimension, the width dimension of the sign itself and the pedestal or whatever you want to call it, those have to be the same width in order for it to matter. And that's the dimension that's missing.
Right.
On
Well, you can
I mean,
see it.
it's an assumption.
Yeah, it
but
follows. But here's the thing. We're calling everything above grade square foot or effective area. How much of that sign area are they wasting? It's just open. Like they could enclose the whole thing and put words all over it. We calculate it the same way.
But because there's no direct burial, it is still a monument?
Yes. Yes. The whole thing is a sign, not just the top cabinets.
So they have to give you what's in that.
They'll give us engineering. Yes.
Well, yeah, the platform that it's on, because that's.
I like to see how that engineering turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like-
Me too.
Securing that to the ground.
It was a long journey to get here,
Under those
but
flowers.
but
it's
it
longer.
will be
Yeah,
interesting.
through those flowers, it's either gonna be concrete or.
So what threw me off was it got skinnier and then got back wider again. I thought it had to be 8 the whole way up.
Nope. It just says no separation between the sign and the
Okay.
ground.
Okay.
Can I ask one other one?
Sure.
So what if they drew this up, right, and there's not that bed at the bottom? They had an anchor bolt attachment, but it was not,
with the anchor bolt.
There's separation there.
right, so that would be bendable.
Right.
So both the foundation detail and the ground.
Right. Two key elements.
Well, I brought up the question asking these guys, what does it matter? The setback's the same. But the thing is, what you said, because it's within residential, and then they have a monument sign, but he's still want
Yeah.
a pole sign.
The reason this matters is it's within 250 feet of a non-business zoning district. They're required to have a monument sign.
That's it. All
That's
I'm-
why this matters. So, yeah, next code. B3 prohibits non-monument signs within 250 feet of private property within a non-business zoning district or public park more than an acre without a special exception. And again, these go through the Board of Adjustments. It's a $1,200 shot. My experience has been however the neighborhood is around. Like I know some of the other companies went through recently and there was a lot of opposition and we were able to work out a monument option rather than a pole sign option, and everybody won that way. But it is a $1,200 roll of the dice, and they can grant it to be a non-monument sign rather than a monument sign. The other thing is one detached sign is allowed per street frontage. The exception being expressways, which there's a list of expressways in our definitions section here, 51A 7.102.13, which we do have some new expressways which don't apply. But in that scenario, one sign is allowed for every 450 feet of frontage. And that's expressway frontage, not surround the development frontage. So if they have 450 and 1 inch, they get 2 signs. Now, detached signs on the same premise must have at least 200-foot separation. And that's a radial measurement. So if you do have 2 signs, say you got 2 street frontages, 1 on each corner, and you don't have 200 feet, you can only have 1 of them. No detached sign can be located in a visibility triangle. I'm going to click this so everybody can see it. We have a little graphic, which it's also posted on our sign site. And so where 2 city streets meet, that visibility triangle is 45 feet. And basically that is measured from the point the curbs would intersect. So if I draw a straight line along this curb out and a straight line along this, and I measure from that point 45 foot down one street and 45 foot down the other, and then draw a triangle across, nothing can be in that area. Now, for a private drive in a city street, it's 20 feet. There are some places in the Oak Lawn Special Purpose District PD 193 where it allows 30. Deep Ellum does some weird stuff because I think a lot of the buildings are actually in the triangles. So there are some exceptions, as with everything. State Thomas, a lot of the buildings are old there. But in general, 45 and 20 is what you got to remember. All right, for signs mounted to a fence, only the sign is considered effective area. So if you're looking at channel letters mounted on a fence, which we define as a barrier, so you can use that however you need to use it. You just draw a box around the letter or the words themselves, unless there's a design, kind of like a detached sign. All right, we have 3 types that we're going to cover of detached signs. There's some more, but we're only going to cover 3 today. Single tenant, multi-tenant. And for a multi-tenant, you've got to have the address on there, and expressway. And in order for something to be an expressway, it has to be along that list in 102, and it must be within 100 feet of the expressway right-of-way. So entirely within 100 feet. And they do have to have expressway frontage. So just because they're at the property behind, that might still be 100 feet, they need expressway frontage. And I've got links to all the charts there below, which we've laid out charts for everything for those. I can pull some of those up, which I think everybody's probably seen these charts, but here's a single tenant monument sign, multi-tenant monument sign. You can see there's a 5-foot setback that's required there. And then unity agreement signs, which we aren't going to get into today. And there's a couple code references just as general things to keep in mind. 1 per frontage and 200-foot separation.
Well, for your detached signs that have to be 200 feet apart, are you saying when it wraps around the corner, are you measuring?
It's a radial measurement, a straight radial measurement.
So it's not if you go around
So,
the corner.
yeah, as a crow flies.
As we do, okay. I want to make sure we do it.
All right. So any questions on detached signs for business zoning districts? Here's some examples, all detached signs. All right. So attached signs for business zoning districts. We'll go pretty quick through this. So C is basically signs on the primary facade can't exceed 25% of the total area of the facade. Signs on each secondary facade cannot exceed 15% of the total area. And our ordinance in the sign does not regulate which one's the primary and which ones are secondary. It just says you get 1 primary and the rest are secondary. So you pick. If you've got expressway frontage and it's the back of the building and that's most economical to use your 25%, go for it. Like you tell us. but you only get one primary facade. Each separate use with a certificate of occupancy is treated as a separate facade. So for shopping centers, they each have their own facade. A maximum of 8 words can be used on any facade with characters 4 inches or taller. Words with characters less than 4 inches can be used without limit. So basically, every facade is allowed 8 words that exceed 4 inches. Like for all the signs they could have 8 signs and each of them is 1 word, but that's all they get. Now, words that are 4 inches or less, you can have as many words as you want. It still calculates as effective area, but in this case, they don't count as words. And that includes words on the window, wherever you're advertising, whether it's the same sign or not. All right, attached sign provisions. These are going to be where we get in projecting. So outside of these exclusions, all words or all signs and words must be mounted parallel to the building surface to which they are attached and not project more than 18 inches, except as provided in E. And this projection is defined as out or up in any direction. So don't look at it as just a blade sign. We will get into blade signs, and there is a blade sign requirement. We don't call them blade signs. We call them all projecting signs. So E1 is for blade signs. And basically what it says is one sign per premise can project up to 4 feet. It can exceed 20 square feet, and it can't be lower than 10 feet, exceed the roof, or be located on a premise with a detached sign. So this is our blade sign requirement here for business zoning. Because it's an exception to the words being mounted parallel, they can be mounted perpendicular. We have signs that are mounted parallel to the facade. So some can be mounted at the eave or edge of a roof or canopy and project up to 4 feet above the surface, provided the sign is parallel to the vertical plane. So this is a shopping center, and they have a giant canopy out front. So they set those letters on the edge of the canopy, and they're allowed to go up 4 feet. These don't, but they're allowed to. Otherwise, they just follow the 25 or 15%. Now, the other scenario, again, one that doesn't get used very often, is larger blade signs that don't contain any words. So in this scenario, this was put in for Chili's at one time. But you can have one sign per premise that can project up to 4 feet. It's not allowed to exceed 60 square feet. Again, it can't be lower than 10 feet above grade. And it must be a registered trademark or logo that has no words. So here we've got a donut for Shipley's and a pepper for Chili's. Both of these locations have detached signs. All right. Window graphics. I found some, Mike. We were hard pressed to find some conforming window signs. So all signs attached to a window or glass door may not exceed 15% of the area of the window or door. Signs in the upper 2/3 of window or glass door are prohibited. Now, anything over 4 inches as far as your words is going to go into the word count for that facade, but you're not allowed to put anything above those 2/3 as far as signs go. Now, if somebody wants to tint it or put just a artwork on it that's non-commercial and is for public benefit, the sign regulations don't apply. There might be other regulations, but the sign regulations do not. And the last one, this is in F, and I think this is common, which was funny that we found this, but basically words attached to machinery or equipment, such as gas pumps, ice vending machines. We've got these charging stations, which are a big thing now. These words must exclusively refer to the products or services dispensed by that device and consist of characters no more than 4 inches in height and can project no more than 1 inch from the surface of the device. This would include ATMs, any kind of equipment that's necessary to a business. Ice machines, I guess that's on there. But I was a little concerned when we started having all the charging stations having to be put in and how much of those are going to be advertising. Well, we've already got things in place that help that, and I didn't have to do it, so I was happy about that. All right, so any questions about attached signs for business zoning districts? Okay, so non-business zoning districts, we'll call these NBZDs, just because I didn't want to type it all out. So these are all other zoning districts that aren't designated a business zoning district. Again, we get real technical in our definitions. It does include some non-residential districts and all residential zoning districts. So just because it says non-business doesn't mean there's no businesses. It includes, but not limited to, all the office districts, which under the zoning code are considered non-residential districts. So kind of a, I guess it isn't as logical as it could be, but that's the way we do it. So we've got NO, LO, which is limited office, mid-range office, general office, manufactured homes, and there are exceptions for office districts, which we'll look at. Multifamily 1 through 4, clustered housing, town housing, duplex, single family, which is R 0.5 or 1/2 through R10, and then agriculture districts, which is just an A. So again, sections A through C talk about lighting. It does prohibit all movement on signs. So in a non-business zoning district, the sign can't move. We do have subdivision signs. Basically, these are the same as a business zoning district, except when these are submitted for approval, they have to be either submitted by or authorized by an HOA. So there has to be an HOA involved, and then all property owners abutting the sign have to have their approval, and 2/3 of the property owners within 300 feet of any of the signs. Again, they're allowed 2 per street entrance, 40 square feet. They can be in the right of way, not to exceed 6 foot tall, and they can't be illuminated. This is our detached sign chart for all other detached signs. And basically in a non-business zoning district, that's all they are. There's no types. It's just detached. What that means is the effective area is measured based on the sign itself, not the sign supports. So you could have a monument type sign and all you count is the sign part itself. No stone bases, no stone structures, no anything else, just the sign. Which is why I think the ordinance is done the way it's done. You get 1 sign per 600 feet of frontage along a public right of way other than an alley. And then here's the chart. So there's an area between 2 and 10 feet tall, back to 15 feet that you cannot occupy anything but a 1 square foot pole is the only thing that can occupy that area. So oddly enough, when something is in proximity to a business zoning district, it's required to be a monument, but you can be a non-business zoning district across the street and have a pole sign. If you put a monument sign in a business or non-business zoning district, you immediately have to have a 15-foot setback because you occupy this space. Just an interesting fact there. These are all detached signs in non-business zoning districts. Any questions? Oscar.
Just for quick reference, if you have 1,200 foot of street frontage, let's say you're allowed, technically allowed 3. Okay, you're allowed to have 2 of them. There is no 200 foot separation from them.
Correct.
You can have them actually literally an inch apart. Yeah, just throw that out there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's no separation requirement in non-business zoning.
Would the first sign be a movement sign?
The first sign what?
Wouldn't it have movement on it though, or is it eliminated?
Well, in our digital ordinance that governs all digital signs, animation is not allowed. Flashing is not allowed. You can't change the brightness except once every, in this case, 20 minutes. There is a provision that allows for the temperature changes. I think it's every 8 seconds, and then time. So you can do a time and temp every 8 seconds. But yeah, as of right now, you cannot change the brightness outside of changing the message entirely.
Will they ever change that for the schools? Because I know that's the biggest, one of the biggest struggles the schools go through is, oh yeah, we have a sign.
You know, I've pushed master plan in particular, let's put something in the front of the sign ordinance that allows them some exceptions, because every time we get a bond package, we run into issues, and we got to update all the PDs or make new PDs to allow for signs. And I mean, honestly, it keeps me busy, but at the same time, like, I think we could fix it easier, but I mean, they're in it to get work too. So
Right.
I think when we actually look at redoing the ordinance, we'll probably look at some things like that. But for right now, they're allowed for 20 minutes is the face, which is not good on those signs. Like, the LED is designed with a half-life, and the longer it's lit, the less they last. So yeah, sure.
The brightness on the EOC doesn't include the auto setting there for daytime, nighttime, right?
No. Like if it's adjusting to ambient light, no, it wouldn't. Like, they're talking about when you change a message.
So we still need to have like that master password and stuff to keep them from accessing it.
We just require that it be protected from end user manipulation.
We still need to send in that letter.
I think I skipped that in the beginning of the presentation, but it was in there. I just didn't read it. Yeah.
Just wanted to verify.
Yep, it's still there. So attached signs in a non-business zoning district. This one's pretty simple. Number 2, under 51A 7.404, you're limited to 1 sign per facade per occupant, and it can't exceed 40 square feet. And the exception to that is going to be for office districts, and it's certain office districts. Now, this 1 sign can't have more than 8 words that exceed 4 inches tall, just like in business rules. For LO, GO, and MO and O2 districts, you're allowed up to 2 signs per building that can exceed 40 square feet. And basically, they get an additional 40 square feet for every story above the 2nd floor. So it doesn't mean they have to install it at the top of the building, or the number of 40s that they get is based on the height of off the ground. It's how many stories are there. Is you get an additional 40 square feet per story. You just have to mount the sign above the first 2 stories anywhere. Again, only 2 per building, and they can't be located on the same facade. And that includes all the tenants. So if you got a multi-tenant building, only 2 of those tenants could have one, or 1 tenant have 2 signs that are above the 2nd floor and exceed 40 square feet. So all signs, again, and their words must be mounted parallel to the building surface to which they are attached, and not project more than 18 inches, except as provided in 7, which is just like E in the last one. And in this case, no sign can mount or project above a roof. So signs perpendicular to the facade, or blade signs, you're allowed 1 per non-residential premise. So if you have an apartment that is a residential premise, you cannot have a blade sign in a non-business zoning district. Now, a lot of the apartments, they're in mixed use or some of the other districts, and you can have them there, because they do allow, in business zoning, they allow a premise or non-residential occupant. So if you name the premise the name of the apartment, you can work it out that way. It doesn't work in business or non-business zoning. Again, they can't exceed 20 square feet. They can't be lower than 10 feet above grade, and there can't be a detached sign on the premise. Here are some examples of non-business zoning signs. Any questions on those for attached signs? All right, let's look at permitting procedures. So 51A 7.602, we'll just pull that one. Basically, we require a permit for all signs that exceed 20 square feet or 8 feet in height. All signs that are illuminated, any sign with moving elements, so basically any kind of electrical involved in the sign. If it's erected in or over a public right-of-way, if it projects more than 18 inches, or if it's located in any of the SBSDs. SBSDs require permits for every sign. So if your sign is 20 square feet and only 8 feet tall and non-illuminated, you don't need a permit. All right, so we use an online permitting system. I think many of you are familiar with it. Project Docs is what we call it. We've set up a bit.ly link, and I've got it on that sheet. It's on the back side there. Just as a general rule, a permit should not take longer than 2 business days. If it does, something happened and you need to let us know. So shouldn't take longer than 2 business days, provided the sign application is complete and approvable and all the applicant tasks are completed when notified. Our goal is same-day permits. We're hitting them. I think the last time I ran a report, we were doing it 16% of the time. But that relies on the applicant actually completing all their tasks at the same time. So if everybody's working together, we can get these out the same day, which is like it used to be, and probably unheard of for most online systems. I hope. Maybe it's not, but I like to pride us and say that we do, but who knows? All right, so one of the sheets I've got is the items we need. And we do our best to try and get around these, but some of these we can't. And some of these, if we need something, we'll ask for the other thing that we may not need that much just to help the inspector out. So like the overhead location map, sometimes we've got to have these. SPSDs require these. But a lot of times this will help the inspector know where the signs are. It helps us in relation to determining the regulations when other signs are on the property. So overhead maps are good. We try to do it without them, but we would really like to have them. We've got to have an elevation of the sign showing the exact wording that appears on the sign, the overall dimensions, the height and length of each word. That's so we can calculate effective area the best way it can be calculated. Occasionally, if we're in a hurry and you guys just put the height times the width, we'll go with that, and you end up paying a little more for the permit, which, I mean, may not be a bad thing, may be, but you can definitely maximize your bottom line if you break down each word when it's allowed to do that, because we charge less for square footage. Everything we charge for is based on square footage. We'll need a construction detail, and this is if it's not illuminated. So basically you're showing us what it's made of, like a side view, a cutaway view, the depth of the sign, the attachment method to the ground or building. We'll need the electrical detail if it's illuminated. So we want to see where the power supplies are going. Any kind of electrical you can show us in terms of, is it LED, is it neon, is it fluorescent? And this can be combined with that construction detail. And here's the part I thought I skipped. So for digital displays, this is the manufacturer statement there at the bottom. Basically, it has to say that and it needs to be from the manufacturer. So if you're using an Optech sign, we need a letter from Optech. If you're using a Daktronics sign, we need a letter from Daktronics or Sansi or whoever you decide to use. If you make your own, you can send us your own. But basically, it needs to say the light intensity has been factory programmed to comply with the minimum brightness and dimming standards in 51A 7.216, which is that first section that we went over for digital signs. And then the light intensity is protected from end user manipulation. Now, on top of this, we need these for attached signs. We need to see where it's going on the building. We need the dimensions of the facade, since we calculate based on the facade dimensions. Now, if you know that it's a non-business zoning district, you could probably leave that out. But I don't know that many people look it up before they send it. Some do, which is great. But it's always a good habit just to do that. I think most cities require that. We need the clearance of the sign above grade. Any existing, remaining, or proposed signs that are on the facade. If any portion of the sign is over 100 square feet. So let's say you've got a set of channel letters and they're mounted to a frame, and collectively that frame all put together is more than 100 square feet. We're going to ask for engineering. If that sign's mounted over 50 feet above grade, we're going to ask for engineering. Now, if these are individual letters that collectively, because they're flush mounted, go over 100 square feet, we won't, because each letter doesn't exceed 100 square feet. So we're only asking for that if it's one part of the sign exceeds 100 square feet or is 50 feet above grade. We are on 2021 IBC now. So those are the wind load requirements we'll go for. It is, I believe it's 30 pounds per square foot. Detached signs. We'll need a signed premise warranty form, which is on our website. It's also in the project docs folder where it has, what's it called? Submittal requirements folder. There's one in there. It does have to be signed by the property owner. We've run into situations where these signs are considered real property. So the property owner wants to know if they're being removed or changed. So it needs to tell us how many signs are on the property when everything's done. It needs to be signed by the owner, and it needs to be notarized. If you don't submit this, we'd have to send it back and you have to provide it. And if a sign's being taken out, notate it on that form. We need a scaled site map. It needs setbacks of the sign, again, from the property line facing the right of way. We don't care about the sides. But if it's a city street, we need from that property line next to the city street. The location of any easements, so like utility easements or water easements. We need the property lines, any other detached signs on the property proposed or any existing that might be remaining, and the distance between those signs. Engineering on a detached sign is anything over 32 square feet or anything more than 8 feet tall. It has to be stamped by a Texas certified engineer. I have a note on there. The name on the CO must match the name on the sign before our pre-screen can be approved. And lots of times that's just a $30 record change where they go in and change the DBA. Occasionally they've sold it and now their new ownership, now they got to get all new inspections and that becomes a problem. We try to do the best we can with those, but we need the name on the CO to match what we're about to prove on the sign.
Does our customer need to have passed their CO and received it, or could it still just be pending?
So the CO just has to be approved. And the reason we're asking for that is we're technically not zoning inspectors. We do zoning inspection, but we want to make sure they've got everything in line. They've gone through the process, the use is allowed, and they're going to go into that location.
But they've not necessarily passed all their inspections yet.
Like once it's approved, the next is, I think before they pay it, it's approved. And then the next is pending inspection is the next status.
The permit while they're still pending.
Yes. So once they
Only
complete all the,
inspection, not the completion of CO. So you get to the end of the CO and then pending or schedule.
now we do have a statement, which I forgot about because I haven't wrote a permit in a little while. We have a statement that we can send everybody when a CO's in review. We can send you an agreement that just basically says if this CO gets rejected, you'll remove any signs that you've installed. And that needs to come from the menu of the sign installer, not the business or your customer. So if you sign the agreement, then we'll approve the permit and then you can go ahead and put up the sign before the CO actually gets approved. But I forgot we did that. It doesn't matter what it's on as long as it's from the applicant.
It could even be as a reply.
Yeah. Like, yep. Yeah, I think we worked up a comment that just says, if you agree, reply, I agree. So you just put I agree in the comments. All right, so I wanted to run through a quick permit application just to show you a couple things and all the steps and a way to get through it quickly. And I'm sure you're all experts at project docs. I don't know. It could be better in my mind. It's not as intuitive as I would like for it to be, but it does work and it's what we have. So I want to run through this and real quick, we're going to do a sign permit and Scott back there is going to review it and we'll show you the steps on how to do it. So your opening screen, you've got view my existing projects, which will show you your task list and whatnot. There's two tabs up here, and I don't know if everybody knows this. Like, it seems like anybody I talk to that can't find their project, it's in one of these two tabs. So this task tab, if something is on this list, it's not on our list. So if it's in tasks, it means you need to do something to it to send it back to us before we can do anything with it, because we won't see it on our list if it's on this task list. Now projects, and I just set this up today, so I've never done any. This is where all your projects show up. And generally it's showing the most recent. So over here, if you're looking for a particular one, you click all and it'll show all, but it defaults to recent. You can also tailor your results depending on how many projects you've got and show however many you want. Now to get back to the other screen, oh, you can customize these too. So say you want to put different columns in here or change the order, you can move them around. I don't think it defaults this way. Maybe it does. This is a new account, so this would be defaulted. So to get back home, you can click the logo. You can click the word home. If I'm going to apply for a new permit, I hit for signs. It's a sign application, so I go under commercial, but there's others here. If you're doing something else, say you're putting up an awning, you'll use your BU contractor and you'll pull a commercial master permit. So you could pick a master permit here and install awnings, but you'll have to use your BU number instead of your ES number. So I'm going to click sign application and I'm going to name it. For your purposes, you'll never see this name again. So it doesn't matter what you name it. One of the big keys to this system is do not use anything other than letters and numbers. For some reason, and it's not consistent, things don't go through if you do. So if you ever have a problem with something, it could be because you used a special character. Now, you don't, like I said, it's not consistent. It just sometimes happens. So it took a while to figure that out. But in general, even with the password, it won't let you use a special character, which that kind of led me to believe that's probably why it's doing what it's doing. But you won't see the name of this again. This is the name of the application. This is actually a separate system that communicates with Project Docs, which holds all the documents and configures the payment, which communicates with our internal system. And yeah, so you have to get it just right because these three systems are all trying to talk to each other. We are working on a new system. Again, it's just going to replace our internal system. So there'll still be three systems talking. Anyway, so we're going to name this Sign 1. And again, we'll never see this again. Okay. All right. So there are some tricks to this. The first rule to filling this out is whatever email address you logged in with needs to be in the applicant email field. If you change that, you will not have access to your task whenever it's time to do something else. So if you need to change the email, open a new account. Okay? So what I can do is I can check this box and it automatically fills out my information already. Now for us in a sign, we look at a CO. So we match your CO to your sign permit. So we don't really care what you put in this property owner or tenant. Generally, we want to see the tenant information in there, but you could check the box. We're going to look at your drawings and we're going to match it to a CO. Same thing with the contractor. And again, you only have to fill out the ones with asterisks. The address can get tricky. It's trying to match something in our system. If it doesn't, it creates a temporary address on our side. Where this causes problems is we're unable to locate temporary addresses with our search features. So we'll either need that application number that it gave me whenever I submit this, it'll be an SIGNI number, or we'll need the date that you did it, and we can find it that way. So all I need with this address is just something that gets through. So if it's not letting me, just whatever you can do to make it get through. So I'm going to do 320 East. And see, it's not letting me do spaces, which is weird. East Jefferson. And it's going to say it probably can't find it. So I'm just going to click off of it. And we'll go to the next one. Okay. The point being that if you can't find it, You just click off of it. So there, it pulled Jefferson that time. But if it doesn't find it, just click off of it. Like a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to make it find it. But like I said, it makes a temporary address and it puts it on our list regardless. So a lot of errors can happen when you're trying to do something with that field because it's trying to talk to another system.
That specifically, so if you click off it and it's creates a temporary one, you have to notify y'all?
No, we'll see it. We'll see it.
100% of the time, we'll look and see this, and we'll look at by the DBA. There's one they've already, you know, and then we'll send it back to you. Back to the rest.
LBJ.
Yeah. All right. So she brought up a good point. LBJ, sometimes it's LBJ, sometimes it's L space B, J, B space J. I would default to that. It's not generally Lyndon B. Johnson, but it's L space B space J. So that may help, it may not, but again, sometimes it's no spaces. It just depends on how old it is. Again, leave the ones that are blank. Your contractor number is going to be your number, whatever that is. Generally, the last two numbers we don't need. They're your member number. So I think y'all's number is like really short. If so, 509. But then sometimes when you get somebody new, they'll have like 06 at the end. Well, we don't need the last member numbers. We just need your contractor number. So put that in there. If you don't know it, we're going to send it back. We've got to have a contractor. The PIN number is usually a 4-digit number. Sometimes it can be 3. The key to PIN numbers is not everybody can have the same PIN number. If everybody gets the same PIN number, it's not going to work. So you have to have individual PIN numbers for every member on your account.
Sometimes, I apply for other companies.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm doing this, I can put in FSG's contractor number and my PIN number.
Mm-hmm.
No?
Only if you're a member on their account. Like they're in that scenario, you're the applicant, they're the contractor. So they're responsible for the work. You're just the one applying for the permit. Like
put their contractor number.
State law.
But my PIN, even though that.
Well, if you have a PIN and you're set up as a member on their account, but state law won't let us restrict who the applicant is. Anybody can apply. So you have to have a contractor. Most contractors aren't giving out their PIN number and contractor number. Some do, but when they do that, people can pull permits under their contractor license all the time. So most don't do that, but other trades allow validation. Signs don't. Like we got to have a contractor number before you do it because we don't have a way to validate in our system. Description of project, keep it simple. This is how you're going to identify your project from now on in the description of project. So generally what I've told people to do is put the address and sign 1 or sign 2 or whatever, just some sort of identifying thing. If you put channel letters on every project's going to say channel letters. And you're going to be like, well, I don't know which one this is. Like after I complete this, it's going to send me an applicant upload task. And if I had 5 of these I don't know which one's which. So this is what you're going to use to identify your project from here on out. We don't need a lot of detail. Just, we're going to look at your drawings. We're going to review what you submit.
On the project stat. That first thing, that's this one.
Mm-hmm. So I'm going to put address and sign. So when this comes through, you're going to see that, and that'll know where that actually shows up. Now, DBA is not your DBA. We need to change this. DBA is the tenant. So we want to know what they're operating as. So we'll put Oak Cliff Municipal Center. Activity, if it's a reface, it's alteration. If it's a new sign, it's new construction. The use of property, I don't know why we have this because it doesn't matter what you put in there. you could put a number, which is the use of the property. So yeah, if we wanted the actual use, but it doesn't come through our system. It doesn't tell us. We pull it off the CO. So you can put whatever you want in there. It doesn't matter. It just needs something in the field. Sign type, if the sign is illuminated, whether you're touching the electrical or not, it's an ES. Like if you're refacing it, it's still an ES. SI means there's no electrical at all. Special purpose, again, we don't allow those anymore. And super graphics, please don't do that one. Those go downtown. The guy building this didn't know what he was putting in when he did that. If you do that, there's a good chance it doesn't go through. So a super graphic is a very specific sign type that's only allowed in certain areas and has nothing to do with this system. Like we don't even run them through the system. So we'll go in electrical square footage. Again, the asterisk is not there, so you don't have to put it. If you put a decimal there, that's a special character. So to keep you from doing that, I would recommend not filling out the square footage. We'll calculate it. And the certificate of occupancy, if you've got it, put it in there. That helps us out sometimes. If, say, the address isn't right and we can't find the name and we have to ask for a CO, we've got a number there. At least we knew what you were thinking about. And we can find the certificate of occupancy using the contractor website, which sadly I did not put on this. However, it is on our sign page. It's got a contractor website. And it's the old contractor site, develop.dallas.dallas City Hall. You can look up projects by dates, and it shows you all the permit, or not dates, address. And it shows you all the permits under that address. So you can find a CO, and you can see if the name matches or not, or if they need to update their CO. And then you can give us that CO number if you want, which saves us a step and makes us faster. Then I agree, sign it, hit submit, and it's going to give me the SIGNI number. Now write that number down. I don't care if you print it out or however you want to remember it, but basically after you get your permit number, which is going to be a 10-digit number, which is basically the date plus the last four. So whatever number in the queue up to 9,999 it is. So that's going to be my SIGNI number. That'll show up on the permit when it goes through, and we'll be able to see what you filled out. So Scott is now going to get the tab. Well, actually, we got to wait. I should have did this earlier because I don't know how long these take. So I'm going to go back to home, or I can click the logo, either one. Actually, I want to click the logo. Don't ever click home. People get stuck here. So just click the logo, because you can go to request type, and occasionally these won't show up. So I always click the logo because it's going to take me back to those boxes. Well, maybe it doesn't. All right, services takes you back to the boxes. All right, then I'm going to go to view all projects. And I should be getting a task here relatively soon. Does it really? All right, yeah, I knew I should have done this earlier. All right, so we'll go on with the presentation while we're waiting on the upload task. So eventually I'm going to get an email, and it's going to tell me that it's time to upload drawings. And what I'll do is I'll upload those drawings. And on the back of this sheet here is our drawing requirements. Now, these were made when we first got this system. We've learned some new things about this system, and we do our best to approve whatever you submit. Now, ideally, we would like to have them the right way. And since everything is digital, like you don't have to scan in anything. So everything should be the right way. Like you can just take a drawing, a PDF, and drag and drop it in. So I know some people like to print out their drawings and then scan them back in. And I haven't figured that out yet. Maybe they were mailed the drawings. I don't know. But maybe that's the only way they have to make a PDF. We do require PDFs. Sometimes it'll let you do JPEGs or image files, but we do have problems with them, and eventually they get converted to a PDF anyway. So a PDF is the best format. We do like to have the area clear here, and if there's crucial information, that top left corner, if there's crucial information here, we'll make you move whatever's there because we've got to stamp it at that area. Yes, 8.5 by 11. It needs to be 8.5 by 11. If it's not, your stamp can like be really small. Some people like to load in like 85 by 100 sheets. And I think they're using like FlexiSign or something. So it's just a giant space. And then they're getting their artwork back and they're like, where's my stamp? There's no approval stamp. They're like, well, you got to zoom in really, really close in the very top corner because this is a fixed size and it measures from here over and it measures from here down. And that's where it puts that stamp, no matter where or what you upload. So that stamp will shrink.
You have to make a scale adjustment?
We don't really do anything by scale unless it's a site map. And then even then, like it's not that big a deal for a sign. You know, here's the thing with that. The system supports it if you do it multiple pages. The thing is, we can't stamp individual pages without tearing it apart. Not all of us have the ability to download a document, tear it apart, and upload just the stuff we can approve. That also takes time, which means we can't do it as fast as we could if you uploaded one at a time, or if you uploaded a package that can all be approved. So occasionally we've gone in, and if you had other signs in there that weren't a part of this scope, we'll put big red X's through them and say not a part of the scope. It just depends on what mood we're in when we're reviewing. So if we're cranking them out and it's like, I don't want to send this back, I just want to get it done, then we'll do it. But we don't always, and it depends on the reviewer. So as long as everything can be approved in that file, I'm okay with it. But if it can't, that causes problems. So that's why the individual pages is in there. Personally, I prefer it all in one folder because when we go to put it in our other system, it causes problems when it's multiple pages and you go to look at it on an iPad, and it really causes some problems. So we'll take and combine them after and put them in as one document. So the idea would be to be able to approve a whole file.
The premise behind that was through PDOTs is when you're doing a large project and you have multiple systems at it, that way the electrical department's not trying to have all the building information. That's mostly why it's like.
Yeah. And we're single trade basically. So we look at everything. All right. So the art doesn't have to, we just want it on the sign. I don't care what the art says.
Some cities say, like on documentation below, it has to be UL.
I think we're probably one of the few cities that still do a pre-inspection and look at the sign on the ground before you put it up. So we're confirming that. It's not a big deal if it's on there or not. Yep. Thanks for coming. So frequently encountered hangups with project docs. You never receive the applicant upload task. So generally I tell people 20 minutes, you should get it. If you haven't, reapply. So generally the reason is you had incorrect application data or you use special characters in the application field, which is anything other than a letter or number. And these are so ingrained in us when we type, it's real easy to do. So you have to really think about not using a special character to not use it. So the solution, general rule, if you haven't got it in 20 minutes, reapply. Keep everything simple. If you don't get it a second time, let us know because there could be a problem with the system. We did switch over to a cloud-based system, probably the end of maybe last summer, and things ran a lot smoother. So we haven't had a whole lot of issues like that since, but initially we did have issues. But that's made things smoother. The next one is once you actually get the task, you get an error message that says you don't have access. What that means is you change the email address in the applicant field whenever you were putting in your project. So we either have to manually add your email to that task, which not everybody knows how to do or has time to do, or you just need to reapply using the right email address. So if you want to use a certain email address and you want to get notifications to that address, set up an account with that email address. So the reason, filled out an application with a different email address than the one used to log in. The solution, reapply using the correct address and send us a request to cancel the one that you're not able to access. So it won't show up on anybody's list anymore. So the next one is the payment was made, but I don't have access to my documents yet. Why is it taking so long? So the reason, these documents have to be manually uploaded into Project Docs. They don't just appear. So we actually have to download the permit from one system, put it into the next system. There's ways around it, which I'm not going to go into, but ultimately that's what we're doing. And then we send it back. So another thing that could happen, generally by the end of the day, it will happen. If you don't have it by the end of the day, let us know. We've got a policy in place that all project completes need to be done by the end of the day. If not, as soon as possible. But the final fee payment task is a two-step process. You're going to click the final fee payment task once, and it'll open up where you put your credit card in. Once you send it, you have to hit it again, and there'll be a box in there that you check, and you tell the system, I paid the fee, and you check the box, hit complete, then it'll send it to us, and we upload the documents and let you know. Now, right, and if that's the case, you can go through the contractor website, but just let us know. That's what I mean, the contractor website.
And at that point, there's a notification that we paid once it's done. Does that still mean that?
Yes. Like if you pay on the contractor website, you still have to go and check the final fee payment task. If you don't, we do not get a notification to upload the approved drawings into our system. And our inspectors know that when that happens and there's no drawings there, they don't do the inspection. So you schedule an inspection, but sorry, you got to reschedule because you didn't complete the final fee payment task. So just keep that in mind. If you go through the contractor website, complete the final fee payment task, or it could cost you time on your inspection. All right, so if you're still having issues, contact Scott. So there's a QR code. He does all of our plans examination right now, unless he gets way behind, and then some of us will kick in. But that's his primary duty right now is plans examination. So generally all your review tasks, everything is going to come from him. And let me see if we have an upload task yet. Okay, so there it is. So what I can do, there's two ways to access this. If I check the project number, say you're using multiple people using the same email. So you have a shared email account like info@signcompany.com and everybody uses it. If I click applicant upload, well, that doesn't even apply to you guys. Never mind. Ignore that. If I click applicant upload, it automatically accepts the task because all of us share a list. It pulls it off everybody else's list and just puts it on mine. I can click the project number and look at it without ever accepting the task. So once I open it up, there are different files or tabs. I've got a task tab. I've got a files tab, which I'll put all my stuff in the drawings folder here in a minute. I've got a status, which tells me, I've actually never seen the applicant side, how long it's been in review. There's the info. You can find your receipt once you pay. If you didn't save it, you can find it in here. There'll be another link over here that has your receipt. Reports. I didn't know you could access reports, but there are some reports in there that'll tell you different information depending on what you look at. And the discuss. The discuss is where your comments are going to be. So if we send something back and it's a correction, you click on this tab here that says discuss, and it'll tell you what it is. Occasionally, they'll be set up to where you have to say something back in order to send it back. Most of the time, they'll be just informational for you to see, and then you can say, all right, I did that, and send it back. But occasionally, they'll be locked to where you have to actually respond, and you won't be able to send it back unless you do. So I'm going to go back to the files page, and I'm going to upload my drawings. And it brings up this little window. And we'll just pretend I uploaded drawings because I don't have any right offhand. And I don't want to close out the presentation. So I'm going to go in and go to tasks. And I uploaded my drawings. You can also do it here when you open the task. And you can go to upload drawings and you can do it there. You can look at the submission requirements. In that folder is all those items that we look for. It's this sheet and this sheet. If you're in an SPSD, there's an SPSD checklist, and then there's the detached signed premise warranty. So you can open those up and download them if you need them. We're going to check the box saying upload task complete, and we're going to hit submit. Actually, I may have to actually upload some drawings so you can stamp them, but I don't know. All right, so now that went back to Scott. And he's going to look in it and tell me that my CO is not approved.
A life story.
Yes.
Now.
Are there any special requirements or anything like that if you wanted to run lights along the building, like say the corner of the building or along the roof of the building?
So generally, we can do it one of two ways. So there's nothing that says a sign contractor can't do that. In the NEC, it's under outline lighting. If you apply for a sign permit for it, we're going to take lineal footage and charge that way, as if it's square footage. Under your requirements for an electrical permit, it's all work that exceeds $1,000. However, the way our system is set up, you have to be a licensed electrical contractor, not a sign electrical contractor, in order to pull an electrical permit. We're working on that. We're still a ways out. So generally, you can do it either way. You can do it through your GC and have an electrician pull it, or you can do it as a sign, and you have to say outline lighting in your description. And that tells us that that it's outline lighting, and we'll do it that way. Did you send it back yet? This task and project list, it defaults to whatever you used last. So if you were on the project and you closed it out, the next time you open it up, it'll be on projects. And if you're on tasks, it'll be on tasks. All right, so let's look at inspections while he's doing that. So overview on inspections. We started a new inspection process. It's called an engagement inspection. I don't know if you've seen any of those yet, but we have it's a 14-day inspection that auto-populates on our lists. And in the past, it was used for some other things. We've since reused them as an opportunity to reach out to the contractors to say, hey, I'm your inspector. Here's your contact information for me. These are the inspections you need to call in, and open a dialogue between us and you guys. Now, if you install before 14 days, like some people, they'll get their permit and install the next day. Obviously, you won't get an engagement inspection permit or an inspection email. The other thing is we've built this handout that goes in all the approved folders, and it outlines the inspection process and all the inspection types. Now, if it's an illuminated sign, it's an ES, and all of these apply depending on the sign type. Every illuminated sign is going to have a 730 inspection, the sign can electrical or electrical sign can wiring. We want to meet your crew on site before that sign goes up so we can look at the sign on the ground and go through it. All inspections are scheduled through this IVR system. You call it in, punch in the validation number is what it asks for, but it's really just the permit number. Other trades have actual validation numbers. Ours is just a permit number because we don't validate. But you'll punch in that number, punch in the inspection number type that you want to install or do. Everything called in before 7 a.m. will schedule for the same day. Everything after 7 a.m. schedules for the next business day. On the day of your inspection, so say you called it in at 7:01, it schedules for the next day. So that next morning, we ask, like we're trying to reach out to you as well. So be sure whoever the applicant is, put a phone number on there or something to the person who we're going to coordinate the inspection with. That's who we're going to call. Or make sure your contractor phone number on your license is updated, because that's the number we're calling to try and get a hold of you. If it's not, we may not, which is why I say you guys reach out to us. The best way is send an email before 7:15 in the morning to that inspector and say, my crew will be on site at this time. Let me know if that won't work. If they don't respond, we're assuming everybody's going to be there then. But there are field numbers on there now to where you can call them in the field. And we're trying to get it to where we get a hold of you as soon as possible. But I do encourage everybody at least send the email. They're out the door at 8:30 to their first inspection. So if it's after 8:30, you probably need to call their cell. Some of them have access to email in the field, some don't. So the next thing is we've started emailing inspector results to you. And I want to know if you don't get those. We don't have a way to check if your permit actually passed. The other trades do, but signs were never set up that way. So the way we're compensating is we'll send you an email, whether you got a red tag or a green tag, and it's going to the applicant because that's the only email we have. Basically, you can find out if your inspection passed if it were a final. You can look at the contractor website, and if the status is complete, all inspections are done. But outside of that, the only way you know is either somebody gave you a green tag on site when your crew was there, or we send you an email. If you don't get word, call your inspector, let me know, and we'll get it figured out. But
Hey guys, if it happens, you may have something scheduled for an inspection that day. And just say like you gotta go to Fort Worth or somewhere, and you get out there and the wall's not ready. You got some guys sitting around. You know, you guys can contact us, but most of the time we can swing by where you're at. It's like if you had a sign that went up in Dallas, and you could call us and say, hey, I didn't call in this inspection this morning, but we were told we'll help you out. We don't go put up the sign without an inspection. And once you've got that sign installed, we're gonna make you go back out there, send a truck, 2 guys, waste your gas, pull faces off so we can look at it. Just call us. I mean, I don't know of a time where somebody hasn't called me and said, hey, we didn't get this one in time. You get somebody out there. We would much rather do it than, have to call y'all back out there on another day. But we'll do it. We'll work together and get something figured out.
all right, common issues with inspections. You didn't get one called in. Like Mike said, don't go put it up. Call us and we'll work something out. We have improper listing labels or improper section labels. We're not going to get too much into the electrical, but that is one thing that gets missed. Improper switches or terminations on wires. We're looking for some sort of mechanical fastener, or we allow you to use liquid tape. I used to tell everybody when I did an inspection, keep that on your truck. And if somebody sends you a sign that you don't have it, you can fix it right there. But be sure all your wires are terminated. You can also use that electrostatically rated silicone, but you've got to have the electrostatic rating on it, not just plain old silicone. It has to be rated for wire termination. No licensed crew member on site. We do require either a master or journeyman to be on site. We've ran into this lately too. If you're going to subcontract, make sure whoever you subcontract out that install to is registered with the city. If they're not, they will not be able to do the install. And you're still responsible for the install. improper wire type, the blue page wire is not wet listed. That's something we run across a lot. So it has to be, if it's in an outdoor area, it needs to be sheathed in some sense. If it's going through a wall, you need wall busters. It's not rated to do that. The other thing is improper power supply loading. So like the box LEDs, we want to see a class 2 on that because that's what it's rated for. These big power supplies that don't have multiple legs or aren't rated class 2 that are like for the big retro kits or the big LED light fixtures, those were not meant to run the box LEDs. So that's another one we run across quite often. Again, here's kind of the process, which we went over. And the areas there. Again, the new inspector, once he's up and running, will take Mike's spot, and Mike will kind of oversee all the inspections. Any questions on inspections?
Do we need the plants on site? They're originally the trees.
Other trades require it. If you've got engineering that changed, we want to see that. Otherwise, we've got the plans. We've got those iPads to look at the plans. If you do have them on site, make sure they're the stamped version. Otherwise,
Okay, we were told to have them last time. We're like, oh.
one of those inspectors told you? All right. Well,
The plants. Yeah, and it was the first time that we ever had that.
I mean, generally, it's good to have your crew with a set of plans because they know what they're doing.
Yeah, that was.
So,
We had the permit for now and everything. I'm like,
because we're going by the plans. If you don't, then they'll be, yeah. Did Craig come back? All right, so we've gone way over on time. If y'all want to hang out for a little bit, I can do the zoning map tutorial and show you a little bit about the zoning map. If not, let me look and make sure that, see if that task came through. Okay, so there's the corrections task. I'm going to click on, it's under my task list. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to go to reviews. He says, yeah, he loaded me up there. So, all right, so I'll put, so he made it to where I had to respond. If I go back and I try to complete the task, I believe it lets me respond in this window, but I don't remember. Okay. All right, so click on review comments. There they are. Let's see. Can't you just... All right. So there we go. I'm gonna... All right, so there we go. We're gonna.
Yeah, I think
No,
it's
whoops.
closed.
Hit add, that adds it. There we go. All right. So now I'll close this, send it back. Okay, if you load a revision up, you can keep the same name, which we would prefer because it limits the number of drawings and we don't get confused when it's time to go stamp them. So keep the same name of the drawing and it'll put a V2 out to the side. And we can still access the other one, but it makes it a lot easier. So we'll check the boxes, submit, and because he's a nice guy, he's going to go ahead and send it on through. All right, the zoning map, I'm going to click that. And we have done a lot with the zoning map, and they're continuing to add more. So the number of layers on this thing is really in depth. What I generally click is the tax parcels because that's going to show me property lines. I don't generally mess with the floodplain unless I'm doing some planning stuff or census tracts, council districts. You'll need base zoning. You'll need PD subdistricts. You'll need CDs, PD 193 and PDS subdistricts. Those are the subdistricts of PD 193. You'll need your historic overlay, the historic subdistricts, the SPSD overlay. I don't like that they took that out of just regular zoning. We'll probably get that added back in, but we'll see. I like to add conservation easements, escarpments, because some of those are with billboards, but if you don't do billboards, you probably don't need those. Abandonments will show you right-of-ways that have been abandoned. You can look up old zoning cases and Board of Adjustment cases and current cases if you want. So if you want to see when the zoning was last changed, it'll show you the last 5 years. And you can turn on aerial if you like, and it'll show you the aerial. So if anybody's got an address that they want to use. I think that's
Survey.
Is that theirs? Is that Dallas?
No, Mesquite.
so. Let's do. I think 1400 West Jefferson was one. It'll take me there. I can zoom in. Now you'll see this after you use it for the first time, and you can restore it, the layers you've checked every time. I just did that so you would be able to see what I check. Now, since I've got the tax parcels on, I can click on this property, and the first one that comes up is going to be the street number and address. So it's got the street number and the address there. So here's 1418 202, maybe 1400 West Jefferson isn't an address. Either way, we'll go with that. And then I click to the next, this arrow, it's going to tell me what it is. So this has a historic overlay. So it's in Winnetka Heights, H15, which I'll have to go to that thing there and look up the historic district. It's PD 87, which is going to be the next one, track 2. And I know just from looking at this recently that it follows non-business zoning rules. Track 2 limits pole signs along Jefferson to 8 feet tall, which isn't a big deal right now. But
How did you know it's not those?
because I just knew.
He knows everything. Okay.
Yeah. So there's the PDs in there. So if I go back to the sign website and I go over here and I got sign code 51P PDs. This is all the planned development districts. I can type in number 87, which is what that was, hit enter, takes me to 87. I can have a Word document, which is not as good as you think it is, and a PDF. And then all the exhibits, which are maps generally. So I'll click on the PDF. Just about every PD has a sign section. This one actually cuts it up into different sign or different tracks, and each track has a sign section. And one track refers to the other track. So it's not real clear, but I'll show you. So here's track 1A. And we were in track 2. But essentially it says, in general, it follows non-business zoning districts, and it gives size restrictions on detached signs. If I go down to track 2, which is where I'm at, And usually they're not this in detail, but I guess I picked a bad one. That's still tract 1. So tract 2 is here. So non-business, and it gives a detached sign fronting Jefferson must have a height less than 8 feet or less than 32 square feet. And then it also says see section 87-114A for additional, which 87-114A is going to be the next. It's got preservation criteria, and there's more here. So it can't obscure architectural features of a building or shape. So basically, if you put up a pole sign, it can't obscure the building, or it can't be mounted on the wall in a place where it would be architecturally significant.
You could also type in design in your search bar, highlight everything.
Yeah. If you hit Control F, and generally I like to put a space before and a space after, and then hit enter and search that way. Otherwise, it'll pull up the word design, and you find a lot of that. Okay, let's go back to project docs. Refresh.
For some reason, when I did the batch stamp, it automatically sent a project.
Oh, because there weren't any files in there, and there's no fee. Okay. So generally you would get a fee request, but we didn't actually put it in the system, so there was no fee.
You should still be able to see it.
Project.
I completed the project.
All right, so it is approved.
There's a batch stamp file in it.
Okay. So if I go to approve, I can download them. So I download that by clicking the arrow and checking the box. And I open the file, and there we go.
That was a good one.
So project docs can be simple as long as you stay within those parameters and complete all the tasks. But that's the goal, is same day. There we go. All right, so any questions on the zoning map? If there's an SBSD, if you just click through that, it'll have its own tab that says SBSD, and then it'll have the business and non-business zoning districts. But there's lots of tools in there. It's got water lines, it's got all kinds of stuff. All right, so up and coming, the next one we're going to do signs 102. It'll be in August, and it'll be on all the specialty processes. So that'll be like your detached sign unity agreement signs. Detached, yeah, unity sign agreements. That's what it is. Unity sign agreements, Board of Adjustments. We'll look at some of the PDs. This PD in particular is really complicated. The conservation districts, historic districts, form districts. We'll look at certificate of appropriateness and the SBSDs and that process, right-of-way agreements and ordinance changes. To change the sign ordinance, anybody know how much it costs?
$10,000.
To make a new PD, it's $6,000. To change the sign ordinance, it's $1,100. So let's get with it. Well, you could probably do it yourself, and I'd help you. So, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff I already know.
So Signs 103 we'll have in December. I'm still kicking around what to call that. It's a toss-up between a potential stakeholder meeting on billboards and digital billboards, or how to make the sign ordinance work for your bottom dollar, and really like let's exploit the ordinance to where it helps you make more money. And the last one is a stakeholder meeting that we'll do for the whole ordinance, and that's to be determined. But that's one of my goals, is to get the ordinance updated. There's a lot of requirements in there that are way outdated that we need to look at and address. All right. That's all I got. Any questions or?
Will this be online?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'll post this online. It'll be PDF, but it'll have all the links in there, like what has been in there. So when you click a link, it'll take you there. There is a video tutorial that we had somebody record for the zoning map. So it'll take you to a tutorial on how to use it. It shows you an ad first.
Somebody needs to do their taxes.
Yeah.
Or just did your taxes.
But thank you, everybody, for coming.
There's also a Facebook page too. Our department is not just signed. We have, it's